Hi, my name is Dan. I finished last in my fantasy football league. This week, I'm sharing my top 10 tight ends. This will be the last of my short series on top 10 players at the skill positions. Tight end is a tricky position to draft, in my opinion. You have great ball catching players who look more like wide receivers and can get favorable matchups with their size. They can also provide a safety valve for the quarterback, as they are less likely to be running deep trying to catch a bomb. But the different uses for tight ends also mean the gap in scoring is much smaller than other positions. When there isn't as much separation, it's harder to rank them, in my opinion. Using last year's stats, the difference between the third ranked and 10th ranked player at each position was 59 points for quarterbacks, 78 points for running backs, and 52 points for wide receivers. That's with standard scoring. It's even larger for running backs and receivers in PPR leagues. For tight ends, it's 17 points from 3rd to 10th in standard scoring, and only 16 points in PPR, or a point a game. No, I specifically said 3rd to 10th because the first ranked players from last year can skew the results. 1st to 10th for quarterbacks was a 75-point gap, so 16 points from 1st to 3rd. 1st to 10th in tight ends was 83 points, but 1st to 2nd was a 65-point gap. If you only look at the 1st to 10th difference, you can miss the drop off between 1st and 2nd with tight ends and not realize there was very little scoring difference between 2nd and 10th over the course of the season. With this in mind, I'm going to present the top 10 tight ends in a slightly different way. Instead of a countdown of 10 to 1 like I did with quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers, I'm giving you 3 tight end tiers for this upcoming season. Tier 1, Trey McBride and Brock Bowers. These are the guys that can score more like wide receivers than tight ends. Having them can provide a scoring advantage for you from the tight end position, and the only tight ends I'd suggest drafting early. McBride was the number 1 receiving target on the Cardinals last year, and I expect that will remain the case this year. He was the clear number 1 tight end with a 65-point end-of-year margin over second. Bowers is capable of toppling McBride for the number 1 spot, and may have last year if not for dealing with an injury and missing games. I'm not sold on the Raiders, and we'll have to see how the quarterback situation turns out, but Bowers' down season last year still produced top of Tier 2 numbers. Tier 2, Tucker Kraft, Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren. This is based more on expectation than past performance. All three's overall numbers were impacted in various ways last year, but they showed flashes that clearly put them in the Tier 2 territory. Kraft only played 8 games prior to an ACL injury that saw him scoring at a rate similar to Brock Bowers and George Kittle. He's coming off that injury and plays for the Packers, so be careful. Loveland started slow, managing some minor injuries from what I could recall, but became a huge target for Caleb Williams in the stretch run. He should have a better overall season this year, though the Bears do have 3 pass-catching tight ends. Warren started hot with the Colts when Daniel Jones was under center, though production fell off after Jones was injured. With his versatility on the offensive side, there's a lot of upside as long as the Colts get back to their early 2025 offensive success. Tier 3, George Kittle, Kyle Pitts, Sam Laporta, Dallas Goedert, Harold Fannin. Do you even play fantasy football if you don't know these names? At least the first 4. Kittle outpaced the other 4 a little last year, and the others all scored within a point of each other per game. Pitts is the only one in the group that played every game last year, and that's part of why I consider them Tier 3. If you miss out on the top 5, these guys will fill in just fine. No what about this week, as ranks 5 through 19 are very close on a per game basis. Sure, one of them could have a breakout season this year, but that's a smaller risk with the tight end group. My real suggestion is to have a couple tight end targets, but don't reach for them that early. That's how you finish last.